The Aurelia Museum of Art and History is located on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. The Anishinaabe include the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We respect and observe the long and enduring presence of Indigenous peoples, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit on this land. Their teachings and stewardship, culture, and way of life have shaped our city's unique identity.
I am Hannah Arndt, the History Programming Coordinator here at OMA. I just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year, and I hope everybody had a lovely holiday season. This year, we have a lot in store for everyone with our History Speaker Series. And as always, I want to acknowledge Deanne McCullum at Rogers for sharing the OMA Speaker Series on Rogers Cable. Tonight, I want to welcome our speaker, Jessica Allen. She's also our new History Committee Chair. Jessica is a dedicated museum professional and heritage advocate, managing the widely recognized Simcoe Curator account on social media. Simcoe Curator promotes cultural heritage and historical storytelling across the region. Jessica holds a postgraduate diploma in museum and gallery studies and extensive experience working with archival materials from institutions like Library and Archives Canada. Jessica is passionate about making history accessible and engaging for diverse audiences. Tonight's talk will dive into OMA's collection and discuss the importance of museum collections as a whole. OMA is home to over 20,000 artifacts, but what does that actually mean? This talk will also include discussions on sustainability, accessing collections, and some featured artifacts. And as always, at the end of tonight's presentation, there will also be a question and answer period. So Jessica, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, welcome everyone. Today, we will explore the significance of OMA's extensive archival collection and their role in preserving and sharing Aurelia's rich history. With over 20,000 artifacts, these treasures highlight pivotal moments in the community's evolution, offering a window into the lives of the stories of the past. We'll discuss how museums safeguard and share historical resources, serving as vital tools for education, storytelling, and engagement. You'll also discover innovative strategies like digitization that make history more accessible and ensure its preservation for future generations. Together, we'll explore the challenges archives face today and the sustainable practices that help protect these materials. By the end, I hope that you'll leave with a renewed appreciation for the role of museums and their collections and how they celebrate and preserve our shared heritage. So what are archives? Archives hold significant materials, documents, photographs, letters, and objects that provide a direct connection with the past. Each item tells a story, helping us understand specific moments in time. These collections aren't just for researchers, they're valuable for everyone. They preserve the knowledge and experiences of past generations, making them accessible for learning, reflection, and inspiration. Archives also reveal the story of a place, its people, its culture, and evolution. From personal letters to artifacts from daily life, they create a vivid picture of our shared history. By preserving and sharing these materials, archives keep history alive and connect us to the past, which help us better understand the present and the future. A lot of people often wonder, how are archives different from libraries? Well, both store and share information, they have different purposes. Archives hold unique items like diaries and letters and old photographs, things that tell specific stories and are often one of a kind. Libraries, on the other hand, focus on published materials like books and magazines that are made for everyone to use. Archives also keep items in their original order to show their full context and history. Access usually limits protection, they're protected to protect these fragile materials, versus libraries are organized by item or topic, and they're encouraged to be borrowed and to browse through. These differences show how both archives and libraries play an important but separate role in preserving and sharing knowledge. So local collections like the one here at OMA give us insight into the community and their history by preserving these objects and photos and documents that are specific to Orillia and the surrounding area. These collections are essential for documenting and researching local heritage, ensuring that the history is accessible for exhibitions and education and also personal exploration. OMA's collection includes over 23,000 artifacts that showcase Orillia's past and present, from artwork and garments to photographs and everyday objects. Together, these items reflect the community's diverse history. The collection plays a key role in documenting and preserving local heritage, ensuring that the stories of the past are safeguarded for future generations. It also serves as a resource for research and education, offering valuable insights for historians, students, and the public. By preserving these artifacts, OMA keeps Orillia's history accessible, engaging, and relevant for years to come. Over time, museums have shifted from being private collections to public institutions that are dedicated to preserving and sharing history. At OMA, we're embracing this evolution by integrating digitization into how we manage and present the collection. Digitizing artifacts and photographs and oral histories serve two critical purposes. First, it protects delicate materials. By reducing the physical handling of these items, we can preserve them and it's them in their original form for much longer. Secondly, digitization increases accessibility. By creating digital records, we allow people to explore this history from anywhere in the world. Past Perfect Online is a user-friendly platform that allows you to explore the museum's archives from the comfort of your own home, anywhere in the world. By simply searching online, you can access a wide range of artifacts, photographs, and documents that showcase Orillia's rich heritage and history. This digital tool not only makes the collections more accessible to a global audience, but it also helps preserve fragile items by reducing the need for physical handling. Whether you're researching or learning or you're just curious, Past Perfect Online is an easy way to connect with the Orillia Museum collections at any time. Connecting people to history means making it accessible and engaging for all ages, and social media plays a big part in this. On Facebook, local history groups like the Orillia Past and Present group share historical photos that spark discussions. These posts often prompt residents to share their own stories and their memories, helping to preserve the community's history in a personal way. TikTok, on the other hand, is great for reaching younger audiences with short creative videos. Museums like the Black Country Living Museum have used TikTok to connect with millions of people, making it the most popular museum on the platform. Instagram Reels allows anyone to combine visuals with storytelling, making history more engaging and shareable. For instance, accounts like History Cool Kids or the British Museum use Instagram to showcase archival photos, artifacts, and historical events paired with short, intriguing captions that invite followers to explore further. Interactive tools like GIS and virtual maps help audiences visualize history in a geographical content. Interactive maps like the one you're seeing here, the map of early London, brings history to life by letting users explore historical environments and see how spaces were once organized. These tools combine historical data with maps to create immersive and accessible experiences, helping users engage with and contextualize the past. Here in Simcoe County, projects like the Heritage Story Map Tour in Oro-Medonte showcase the significant historical sites with photos, documents, and narratives. These tools are both educational and community-based. They broaden access to history while inspiring exploration. By using GIS technology, communities can preserve their stories and ensure that they remain relevant for future generations. Museums and platforms are using gamification to make learning history fun. Through interactive tools and quizzes, challenges, and even augmented reality, museums like the British Museum use digital games, scavenger hunts, and quizzes that prompt visitors to explore exhibits and solve puzzles related to historical facts. Augmented reality brings history to life by overlaying digital information on real-world objects. For example, the Smithsonian Museum uses augmented reality app called Skin and Bones to transform exhibits into interactive learning experiences. But it's not all iPhone apps. Museums like the Mattawa Museum use escape rooms with history-based puzzles to integrate items from their collections and allow people to interact with them in a learning experience. Video games like Assassin's Creed Discovery Tour, shown here, offer historically accurate virtual worlds, allowing players to explore ancient settings while learning real-world history. These methods turn passive history lessons into dynamic, immersive, interesting experiences, blending education with entertainment. Simcoe Curator is an Instagram account that I run that's designed to make archives and the history of Simcoe County more accessible. Social media is a powerful tool for reaching new audiences, particularly younger generations who might not engage with history through traditional means. Through Simcoe Curator, I share stories behind artifacts, highlight unique pieces from the archives, and bring attention to overlooked aspects of local history. The account is all about creating a bridge between the past and the present and making history relevant and relatable in the digital age. Through resources like the Simcoe County Archives, local museums, and other online platforms, I've uncovered really fascinating stories. And I'm just someone simply passionate about history. It all just started with a simple Google search. And over time, I began researching and emailing and connecting with local individuals, which led me to the projects that I'm involved in today. And my research has really led me to some incredible discoveries. I'm collaborating with the Simcoe County Museum and Queen's University to determine whether a fossil in their collection is a mastodon or a mammoth. I'm also documenting the story behind a 19th century inscription that's on the Nottawasaga Bluffs. And I've also recently identified a location of a photo from Sir Frederick Banting's scrapbook that was previously unknown. And all these projects just started with a simple curiosity and researching, and that just kind of shows what's possible when you dive into the archives. On December 20th in 2024, the Wasaga Beach Archives closed its doors due to budget constraints. This closure highlights a broader issue faced by many small archives in the Simcoe County: limited funding and the high cost of maintaining facilities and collections. When archives close, public access to local history is lost, and communities can become disconnected from their heritage. Addressing this issue requires community involvement, greater awareness, and increased funding. Without these efforts, the continued loss of the archives threatens to leave significant gaps in how we understand and preserve our shared history. One of the biggest challenges for archives is funding. Most rely on government grants, donations, or community fundraising to keep it running. Limited funding affects essential areas like staffing, facility upkeep, and artifact preservation. A clear example of this is the closure of the Wasaga Beach Archives due to financial constraints. This highlights the critical need for advocacy and community support to keep archives open and accessible. Preserving physical artifacts is costly and requires proper handling, climate-controlled storage, and regular maintenance to protect items from damage caused by humidity, dryness, or light exposure. At the same time, digitization has become a really important way to improve access to collections and ensure their survival for the future. Digitization, however, isn't without its challenges. It requires expensive equipment, secure digital storage, and technical expertise to do it right. Balancing the cost of preserving physical artifacts with the demands of digitization is a constant struggle for many archives. OMA's collection policy guides how the museum chooses and cares for their artifacts, ensuring that they support its mission to preserve Aurelius history. When considering an item, the team looks at three key things: relevance, does it connect with Aurelia or the surrounding area? Condition, is it stable enough to last for future generations? And provenance, does it have a clear and documented history? These rules help OMA build a collection that tells Aurelia's story while preserving its heritage for years to come. OMA's collection policy guides how artifacts are chosen to ensure they align with the museum's mission of preserving Aurelia's history. It focuses on relevance to the community, condition for long-term preservation, and provenance for ethical and well-documented acquisitions. The collection relies heavily on community involvement, which many items coming from donations and collaborations with local organizations. Moving forward, OMA plans to enhance digital access through Past Perfect Online and secure sustainable funding to continue safeguarding and sharing Aurelia's stories for future generations. OMA's collection grows through community involvement, with many artifacts donated by local residents who recognize their historical value. Each item undergoes a careful review to ensure it reflects Aurelia's history and aligns with the museum's mission. Artifacts are evaluated for their condition and their provenance and their connection. Items that represent the lives of their early settlers, later residents, and immigrants are particularly valued, as those illustrate broader themes of Aurelia's development. Some artifacts are set aside for hands-on educational use, offering students and the public a unique way to engage with history. While these items may have a shorter lifespan, they provide an irreplaceable learning experience. This thoughtful process ensures that every addition to OMA's collection contributes meaningfully to preserving and sharing Aurelia's history and heritage. Once an artifact is accepted, preservation begins. This includes conservation, secure storage, and digitization, all adhering to the standards outlined by the Canadian Conservation Institute. This process ensures that each artifact, whether it's a document or a photograph or an object, is safeguarded for future generations. Through these efforts, OMA ensures that every piece of its collection helps to tell the story of Aurelia's past while making that history accessible, meaningful, and of course, enduring. Repatriation is the process of returning artifacts, cultural objects, or human remains to the communities or individuals that they belong to. These items often have deep cultural or historical importance and were sometimes taken during periods of colonialism, conflict, or unfair practices. Repatriation is guided by ethics, focusing on respecting heritage and addressing past wrongs. It encourages dialogue, understanding, and healing while building stronger relationships with communities. At OMA, repatriation is part of our commitment to preserving history in a way that honors the stories and cultures behind each artifact. To truly understand OMA's collection, we have to first understand the history of Aurelia. Aurelia's story begins long before European contact, with the Anishinaabe and other indigenous peoples calling this land home for thousands of years. Their deep connection to the land and water and resources is evident through oral traditions and archaeological findings. In the early 1600s, the arrival of Samuel de Champlain marked the beginning of significant cultural exchanges and challenges for Indigenous communities. As European settlement expanded, Aurelia grew, particularly during the industrial area, becoming a hub for manufacturing and trade. OMA's collection reflects these diverse layers of history, preserving and showcasing items that help tell the story of Aurelia's evolution. This ensures the museum remains a space for reflection, dialogue, and the celebration of our shared heritage. Since its founding on August 9, 1999, the Aurelia Museum of Art and History has been a cornerstone of the Aurelia cultural community. Created through the merger of the Aurelia Historical Society and the Aurelia Art Gallery, OMA united the preservation of local history with the celebration of art. Over the years, it has grown into a vibrant hub for exhibitions, educational programs, and events that highlight Aurelia's heritage and creative spirit. As OMA celebrated its 25th anniversary, it continues to honor the past while inspiring future generations, remaining a vital part of the community's culture and life. Every artifact holds a story. This next series highlights unique items from the OMA collection, offering a glimpse into Aurelia's past and the people who shaped its history. This is a fascinating black and white photograph that captures part of Aurelia's history tied to the tunnel located at 33 Mississauga Street. It's an artifact that sparks both curiosity and historical exploration. According to museum records, this tunnel was used as part of a brewery operation. While not definitively tied to prohibition, it's interesting to think about how breweries and tunnels like this one may have intersected with the challenges of that era. Prohibition, which began in Ontario in 1916, created a significant shift for the brewing industry. Some breweries adapted by producing non-alcoholic products, while others may have operated in ways that required a little more creativity. Could this tunnel have played a part in those stories? We don't know for sure, but the connection to a brewery certainly adds an intriguing layer. The photograph also includes Bill Sofer in the background and Elwood McLaughlin in the foreground, two individuals connected to this operation. Their presence in this image brings a human element to the story, reminding us of the people behind the structures and the businesses that shaped this community. Here we have a unique and fascinating artifact, a pair of slippers made entirely from straw. These slippers are part of the Dora Noy collection, and they provide a window into the resourcefulness and creativity of Aurelia's early residents. Straw slippers like these ones are more than just a functional item. They showcase traditional craftsmanship and highlight a personal and community history. In rural communities, materials like straw were often repurposed creatively for everyday use, demonstrating rural inventiveness during a time when access to manufactured goods was limited. These slippers also give us insight into what daily life may have been in early Aurelia. They reflect the balance between practicality and craftsmanship, something that was deeply valued by those who lived in rural communities. Artifacts like these help us appreciate the intersection of necessity and creativity in historical communities. They remind us of the stories that even everyday objects can tell about resilience, adaptation, and the resourcefulness and the resourceful spirit of the past. The Jake Godor oars are a treasured part of OMA's collection, symbolizing a rich chapter of Aurelia's sport history. Jake Godor Sr. was a celebrated rower and sculler who gained international recognition in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Born and raised in Aurelia, he became a world champion, bringing pride to the community and cementing Aurelia's reputation as a hub for rowing excellence. The oars represent not only his athletic achievements, but also the spirit of perseverance and dedication that defined his career. These artifacts connect us to Aurelia's past, offering a tangible link to a time when rowing was a major sport in the region. By preserving these items, like these oars, OMA celebrates the accomplishments of individuals who shaped Aurelia's identity and keeps their story alive for future generations. This is a cast iron balance scale that belonged to Thomas Mulcahy, a significant figure in Aurelia's history. It serves as a reminder of the bustling general store era that was central to community life in the 19th century. Thomas opened the California store in Aurelia in 1866, providing goods and services to the local community for nearly 3 decades until 1894. This scale was likely used in the daily operations of the store, weighing goods for customers, a fundamental part of commerce at the time. This scale represents more than just a tool for measurement. It symbolizes the entrepreneurial spirit and the growth of Aurelia's economy during a formative period. General stores like this one were hubs of activity, connecting rural and urban communities through trade. Beyond his role as a storekeeper, Thomas invested in real estate, contributing to Aurelia's development and shaping its architecture. His contributions highlight how individual businesses could have a lasting impact on the town's growth. Preserving artifacts like this scale help us connect with everyday lives of past generations. It's a tangible link to the economic and social history of Aurelia, reminding us how far the community has come. This fascinating artifact is a cardboard dress form held together with metal butterfly fasteners. It's a unique piece that showcases mid-century creativity and experimental design, giving us insight into both fashion and material innovation during that time. What makes this dress form particularly interesting is its use of cardboard and metal fasteners, materials that weren't really associated with dressmaking. This reflects resourcefulness and inventiveness of the time, possibly influenced by material shortages or a desire to be more cost-effective. This dress form offers a glimpse into the changing trends and practices in fashion design. During the mid-20th century, there was a shift towards embracing new materials and techniques, which led to creative solutions like this. It serves as both a functional tool for tailoring and a piece of art in its own right. Artifacts like these really highlight how everyday objects can evolve through experimentation. While likely it was created for practical purposes, its unconventional construction tells a broader story about the intersection of creativity, necessity, and craftsmanship. Preserving objects like this allow us to interpret not only their physical form, but also the cultural and economic conditions that shape their creation. It challenges us to think beyond the ordinary and appreciate the innovative spirit of the time. The construction of the Minikajing fish weirs at the Atherley Narrows between Lake Couchiching and Simcoe was a significant development that shaped the region. These weirs, created by Indigenous peoples over 5,000 years ago, are among the oldest human-made structures in Canada. They consist of wooden stakes driven into the lake bed to guide fish into areas for easier harvesting. The term Minikajing means at or near a fence in Ojibwe language, reflecting their function as fish traps. The weirs were more than just a tool for fishing. They were a vital gathering place for Indigenous communities, and this site fostered trade, socialization, and ceremonies, establishing the region as a cultural and economic hub long before European contact. Later, this region became a central area for the European fur trade and subsequent settlement. Among the first settlers was James Dallas, who arrived in 1835. He established a farm, opened Aurelia's first school. He became a political leader, helping to shape the town's early development. This mug you see here is an 18th century export. It's a China mug passed through the Dallas family. It adds a personal dimension to this history. As you can see, there's some cracks and things in the mug itself. Remarkably, it survived a house fire in 1876. Repaired and preserved, it stands as a tangible connection to Aurelia's early settler area and the enduring stories of the families who live there. Online auctions and global marketplaces have transformed the way we acquire historical objects. They offer access to unique artifacts that might otherwise be out of reach, and they allow us to share cultural treasures globally, fostering a deeper appreciation for history. At the same time, local acquisitions play a critical role in archives, ensuring that significant items remain tied to the communities they represent. These purchases help strengthen our archives and preserve our shared heritage. A great example of this is OMAH's recent acquisition of Gordon Lightfoot's artifacts, which I'll introduce next. On November 17, 2024, OMAH secured a selection of Gordon Lightfoot's artifacts at his estate auction, thanks to the generosity of a dedicated donor. These items are the cornerstone of a permanent exhibition opening in June 2025, celebrating Lightfoot's legacy as a global music icon and a proud Aurelia native. This exhibition is more than a tribute. It's a way to preserve Lightfoot's legacy story for fans, researchers, and for future generations. Contributions can include donations, and this is a great example how we can ensure Gordon Lightfoot's legacy remains a vital part of cultural heritage. and we wouldn't have been able to acquire that without an online auction. Archives are more than just a collection of artifacts and documents. They're bridges that connect us to the past and help shape our future. The challenges we've discussed today, from sustainability to repatriation, highlight the importance of ethical stewardship in preserving our shared heritage. Institutions like OMAH, alongside passionate individuals, are working hard to ensure these stories are preserved responsibly and with respect. But the responsibility doesn't just fall on institutions. Each of us can play a role by supporting local archives, engaging with their resources, or even starting their own research journeys. History isn't just something we inherit, it's something we create and protect and pass on. Together, we can ensure the voices of the past continue to guide us into the future. I'd like to highlight some wonderful resources available at OMAH's gift shop that can help you delve deeper into Aurelia's history. First is the Aurelia Then and Now. It's a photographic journey that compares historical images of Aurelia with contemporary photographs. It offers a really neat visual narrative of how our city has evolved over time and provides fascinating glimpses into the past and the present. Another notable title is The History of Aurelia and 50 Artifacts. This book tells the stories of Aurelia through 50 key historical objects from the collection. Each artifact represents a piece of our local heritage, revealing insights into the lives, events, and developments that have shaped our community. We also offer many more additional titles covering regional history, local figures, and Indigenous culture. These books are excellent resources for anyone who's interested in exploring the heritage of Aurelia or the surrounding area. Volunteering at the Aurelia Museum is also a chance that you can have to make a meaningful impact on the community. You can play a vital role in preserving history, sharing stories, and supporting our collective heritage. By joining OMAH, you're helping to safeguard Aurelia's past for future generations. Thank you.
Thanks, Jessica. That was awesome. So if anybody has any questions for Jessica, feel free to write them in the chat. I have a couple to get started so people can take some time to think of their awesome questions. One that I had brewing was, what has been your favorite museum-related project you have worked on?
I think that the three that I mentioned in the talk are probably really interesting and kind of the 2024 highlights. Okay. I did mention the Tusk project. That's been for sure a standout project, just involving the rediscovery and the research of a lost mammoth skeleton that was found in the Agila township. So I've been collaborating with Queen's University to determine if it's a mammoth or a mastodon, and that's been really fascinating. I think too, just doing, digitization projects, like working on things like the Sir Banting location. I mentioned earlier, just identifying that using archives and trying to identify a building and being successful and kind of bringing that history to life has been really neat too.
How did you find out where that building was located? Like, what resources did you use for that?
Actually, funny enough, I used Reddit. So another resource that I didn't mention in the presentation, but there's a subreddit called Where Is This? And you can take a photo and people will identify it. So I screenshot a photo from his scrapbook that was previously unidentified and plopped it in there. And honestly, within about 7 minutes, it was identified as a place in Bruxton, England, which was kind of previously unknown in the Simcoe County archive world. So it's kind of neat to be able to identify that and use a resource like Reddit to do it.
Okay, I see we get some questions coming in. This is a good one. So Sherry asked, how do you and the museum think that AI could play a role in future endeavors?
Ooh.
That's a good one. I can help answer this too, but I'll let you go first.
Go ahead and if you'd like.
I mean, I wear a lot of hats at OMA. So my title as the history programming coordinator, I create all the exhibitions. I am in charge of the collection, and I also do the programming. And I find AI is a good tool to sometimes get started, but never to do the work for you. Sometimes I ask, you can start by beginning it by asking it a simple question, and it can, get the ball rolling, and then you're able to go down in the archives and continue your work down there. But how it could play a role in future endeavors, I mean, I feel like it's, for me, I think it's still too early to tell, because I lean more on the side that I think it would take away jobs from the artist. Because honestly, one of my favorite things to do with my job is to, design all of the exhibitions. And I fear that it could be taking away from that. And I don't want it to, because that's my favorite part. So at this moment, I don't know how it could, maybe even, I don't know how it could play a positive role. But what would you say?
I think that if the museum had all the money in the world, I think that maybe conservation would be really cool. I've heard of predictive conservation. So they use it to analyze environmental factors like humidity and light exposure.
I've done that. Yes. Oh, I've done that. Okay.
That's really cool. And maybe like more of the data analyzation of collections, I think would be really neat. I've also heard of, I think it's the Reykjavik Museum uses AI for personal tours. So you kind of put your information in there and then it tours or kind of gives you ideas that way. I think that would be a really neat thing. Also, I think perhaps making content available in multiple languages would be something maybe that would be nice.
Yeah. But I think that's good too.
It's a lot of things. And also I spoke about AR, and the idea is like, I know AI and augmented reality are two different things, but I think perhaps using AI to power augmented reality and virtual reality experiences, I think would be really cool.
Okay, so we have some other questions. Melanie asks, will you be hosting any more history presentations about Aurelia and the surrounding area? Melanie, if you mean like what we're doing tonight, yes, we will be. I don't think I can elaborate on that any further unless you meant something else.
There's also really great ones previously that you can view on YouTube that are really informative as well.
Yes. And then, is there any archival equipment that's available for the public to use to digitize their own collection? I love this question. Do you want to answer it?
Go ahead.
No, you answer it. It's your topic.
Well, I mean, there's a wide variety of equipment that's available just on your own. Things like acid-free boxes and Mylar sleeves and things like that. When it comes to digitization equipment, I believe the Aurelia Library offers flatbed scanners and digital cameras and with copy stands and things like that for capturing high resolution images of artifacts and documents and things like that. And I think they also allow you to use like their editing software. But go ahead, Hannah, if you have more to add with that.
I do know a long time ago, I don't know if they do it anymore, but Costco used to digitize old VHS tapes and cassette tapes. So I was able to digitize all of my stuff onto CDs, but I'm realizing that's becoming obsolescent as well. So I have to digitize that again. But I mean, all you have to do is put it in a box and send it to them. and you can get it sent back to you on a USB stick nowadays. So you can save all your like childhood videos. A simple flatbed scanner can run you back $50, especially like a Canon one, and that can help you digitize all of your photographs. What's it called? A negative film scanner. It's like a little TV box with a light in it, and you can put all your negatives in it. I think is about $50 to $100 as well, and you can digitize all your negatives onto your computer. You just have to remember that what you may be putting on a piece of technology now may become obsolescent in the future, just like I did, and thinking CDs were okay, but it's no longer okay. Don't see any more questions. I'll give it a couple more seconds if anyone has anything else to ask. Lots of praise. Thank you, Trish. Okay. Oh, thanks, Amanda. Amanda says, great job. Amanda Marino from Leacock. Okay. So if there are no more questions, I want to thank you all again for joining OMA this evening. And thank you, Jessica Allen, for your wonderful talk about archives.
Multiple hats here. I curate exhibitions, I deal with the collection, and I do history programming. From the exhibition's conception to the final stages, I come up with the ideas, I write the little essay that goes with an exhibition, I pick all the objects, and then I install it. Working in museums, we have special software that we have put our whole collection on an online database, and we can, look at it up here in our offices. But I mean, the fun part is going downstairs and peeking through everything. Well, all the items are from Orillia and the surrounding area, and they tell the story of the people that came before us and that are currently here. A lot of the time, people will contact me or they'll contact Rachel Dawson, who is our operations coordinator downstairs, and they'll say, hey, I have, this really old chair that is from, Haywood Wakefield, a prominent factory that used to be here. And I would say, yeah, we'll take it because it's part of our collections mandate. And then, there's a little bit of paperwork people have to do. So when somebody brings something to the museum, you're legally transferring the ownership to us, and no longer will it be in your name. But other times, there's other ways of acquiring stuff. So you can, museums can purchase things. You can go to auction. You can, reach out to people yourself. I've done that before. I'd see something walking up and down the street, and I'd go in the store and I'll be like, hey, do you want this anymore? And most of the time they're like, yeah, I do. And other times it's been a success and they go, yeah, we'll give you that thing. So there's many ways to go about it. We want to preserve the history of Orillia, and so sometimes not everyone is going to just walk to your door and hand you things. Sometimes you have to go out and find it yourself. I deal with all the history programming. So like this history speaker series we're dealing with right now, I'm part of a committee that helps put this on, but other history programming, I would write it, and for example, I just finished a program called Museum in a Box, and we're bringing museums to schools. And so you'll rent a box that's full of 30 artifacts, and then students will learn not just about history, but about what it means to work at a museum. So you'll do research, you'll do curating, you'll do social media type stuff. Before coming here, I mainly worked in collections and exhibitions. So I've learned a lot about programming, and I've also learned a lot about adaptability. We love to work on our feet here and in the moment, and my executive director might say to me, okay, we're gonna put on a program with the community and we're gonna do it at the end of the month. And I'm like, okay, what do you want? And so, we wrote a book in a couple of months to commemorate the 25th anniversary. And it really makes you have to, again, go out into the community and ask people, hey, do you wanna help us? And we're really trying to get this project off the ground. And so, like I said before, I think before this job I would have been a very shy person, but because we have to work with the community a lot, it's definitely helped me grow in that sense and be comfortable with who I am. So OMAH was established in 1999. We just celebrated our 25th anniversary last year. We've been a staple for arts and culture in the community long before 25 years, because there was the Sir Sam Still Art Gallery and the Aurelia Historical Society, but everything arts and culture and programming, exhibitions, collections related, I feel is here in this building. If you become a member here at OMAH, we're part of a reciprocal program. So that reciprocal program is part of the Ontario Association for Art Galleries, and you get into all major art galleries in Ontario except for the big three, which is the Art Gallery of Ontario, the AGO, the National Gallery of Canada in Ottawa, and the ROM. But this year we have another reciprocal program where members will get 20% off ROM admission. So I think that's a pretty good incentive to become a member here at OMAH. And members also get to know about member exclusive events, and they get 10% off at the gift shop. Here's a little bit of the behind the scenes on what we have to consider when we put up a new exhibition. Sometimes you may think that these are just any old farming equipment, but they could be hundreds, if not, more than 100 years old. And for example, this is an oxen yoke owned by one of the first settler families here in Aurelia. It weighs about, I would say, 50 pounds, and my coworker Tanya Cunnington and I had to consider putting drywall plugs into the wall because of the weight, and also you have to consider padding the object as well, because you don't want it to get scraped from metal. And then over here, this is a scythe. Again, very old, but it's also oddly shaped, and so when mounting it to a wall, I couldn't just mount it how these, I don't even know the name for these, but I guess they're just like any old hardware tools, but you need to cushion it in all places in order for it to be preserved forever, right? Because one of our jobs here is to keep preserving the objects that are put on display, even if we put them on display, right? building this Four Seasons exhibit. This is our winter wall. As you can see, it's filled with lots of art and objects. So the skis in front of me here were owned by a gentleman named Skid Watson. Skid Watson was part of one of the first, no, he was part of the first YMCA here in Orillia, and these were his skis when he was in high school. So it's said in our records that he would climb up the hill to Orillia High School with these skis. Yeah. And then as well, around the skis, you can see photographs of ice fishers. Right now, I guess, is still the perfect time for ice fishing. If you look out over Lake Couchiching, and I guess, is there ice fishing on Lake Simcoe as well? Yeah, if you look over both the lakes, you'll see lots of colorful huts. And up above is an ice auger, so that's used to, drill the hole in the ice. And then there's a photograph here by Philip Jackman. He was a long-time member of the museum, and that's his photograph of the ice huts on Lake Couchiching.
Cool.
But I find, you can always learn a lot about the present if you look at history, and so I think museums are really important to learn about not always the happy things that have happened, because history is not perfect, but I mean, at the same time, there's a lot of happy history, and I feel like it's good that museums showcase all of that. Yeah.
Now, the thing about this mill is that it was built by Jacob Gill, who was a loyalist who came up from New York State, his daughter ended up marrying Mary Schilling's son. So and their son ended up being Jacob Gill Gador, the world rowing champion. So the other mill that was built, most closely related to Orillia, was built again by Jacob Gill in 1834, and it was at Marchmount. Now, if you ever get a chance to go up to Marchmount, I would highly recommend it. There's an old mill that you can see in this photograph at the far end. That's the grist mill. So the one in the foreground is the replacement of the sawmill that would have been located a few meters closer to that dam behind there.
In 1939, the war, as I said, the World War II broke out. In 1940, the Canadian government put out a contract for any small boat builders that could build the Fair Mile, and that it could make its way down to the St. Lawrence and to the East Coast. Therefore, Alistair decided to sign a contract to build the Fair Mile. The Fair Mile was started in 1940 at 100 boats. As a matter of fact, they're the first of 7 built out of all the Fair Miles built here in Canada. There was a total of 88 Fair Miles built, 15 built in Vancouver area, 7 built in Weymouth, Nova Scotia, and the remainder built in Ontario.
To plan response and tactics for a wide variety of events. Post-war Canada was in so many ways a simpler place than it is today. Ontario Fire College programs would begin with courses needed by fire officer in the early 1960s. These would evolve over time to meet the changing needs of an evolving and changing society. So the changes in building materials, changes in hazardous materials, the awareness of the devastating impacts of fires on high-rise apartment buildings, schools, boarding houses, hotels, all of these would add up to a constantly changing curriculum that would help fire officers manage new and challenging fire operations. To prepare officers to manage these changing operations and departments, fire officers would attend the Ontario Fire College from across the province. It would be absolutely free. Both their board and their room and their meals, their everything. Even the transportation was paid for by the Office of the Fire Marshal, all to provide for the safety of Ontario's citizens and put the least possible burden financially on municipalities and on fire departments. One thing that would not change is an emphasis on annual updating seminars for officers at all levels of fire departments. These updating 5-day conferences would provide the latest thinking at all levels of fire department operations by speakers brought in from all over North America. And they would continue right on until COVID-19 stopped them in 2020. When officers came to the Ontario Fire College in those first few decades, they stayed in that original sanatorium residence building that you see here. It has 40 men, and I say men with confidence because there were no women in the Ontario Fire Service at that time. It's strictly men. Accommodations and food services and dining arrangements were all pretty simple, as you can see. Looks almost like somebody's kitchen or something you would find in a B&B. The rooms were fairly simple. You'll see the heating done by rads and hot water. You'll also see in the bottom left-hand corner a storage vault for cobalt-60. Note the radiation hazard warning sign on it. This is just to show you that, in fact, even at the very, very beginning at the Ontario Fire College, Scott wanted everyone to be very aware of what would be coming in the future, and that is, if not right at that time, and that was the hazards of radiation.